Hey guys, this is Miss Bolin here. I'm talking about your lesson today, which is square roots and cube roots. So the first thing we're going to start talking about here in our warm-up, I'll have the objective for you in just a second, is kind of just the basics of square or exponents in general. So if you remember way back to 6th grade, when you first learned about exponents, you have an exponent here and a base here. Your base is always going to be the big number. Your exponent is that little number on top. So in expanded form, this would be 5 times 5 times 5. Here in this one, you would have the base here of the m, and then the exponent is your 5. And then you have m times m times m times m times m. M times each other 5 times. So here with 100 squared, the base would be 100. This would be your exponent. And then it would just be 100 times 100. Not 100 times 2. A lot of times we're still, when we're in the midst of things, we're getting something 100. We're getting that confused that that's 100 times 2. No, it's 100 times 100. It's 100 twice. Just like here, it's m 5 times, and here on 5 cubed, it's 5 3 times. All right. Going on, your objective today is that you should be able to determine not only square roots, which most of you are pretty fluent in, but now you can also determine cubed roots. Squaring a number is raising that number to a power of 2, or multiplying the number by itself. 5 squared is 5 times 5. 5 squared, or 6 squared is 6 times 6, so forth and so forth. So the square root is the inverse operation of that. It undoes that exponent of 2. The positive square root is known as the principal square root. We went over that just briefly at the beginning of our square root unit. So just to go over some of these, we have 15 squared is 15 times 15, or 225. We have the square root of 144, so we're thinking what times itself equals 144, and that would be 12. And the square root of 144 is 12, because 12 times 12 is 144. All right, so again, we got the square root of 49 here. So the square root of 49 is 7, because 7 times 7 is equal to 49. And then we've got negative 6 squared here. So because the negative 6 is in parentheses, it is just negative 6 times negative 6. So negative 6 times negative 6. We have 2 negatives, so that makes our answer positive. So it would be positive 36. All right. So to do inverse operations, so we isolate the variable and then plug it back in the equation to make sure. So here we have x squared equals 81. So we are thinking what squared, or what times itself, would equal 81. So we know that x is equal to the square root of 81. So x would be equal to 9. So it's just like when we were doing our ab plus c squared plus, or a squared plus b squared equals c squared in Pythagorean, that last step. We're just doing it in isolation now, this being our last step. The next one is f squared equals 400. So you would do this f equals the square root of 400. And the square root of 400 is 20. So F would equal 20. And again, if you need to figure this out, you can always use Desmos. All right, so we have a little bit more vocabulary here to go through. Cubing a number is raising that number to a power of 3 or multiplying itself 3 times. The cubed root is an inverse operation of a number and undoes it as an inverse. So the cubed root looks like this. It just has the 3. It's the same thing as a square root, just 3 times. So if we complete this table for our perfect cubes, just like we had our table back when of our perfect squares, we have 1, 8, 27, 64, 125, 216, 343, 512, 729, and 1000. So those are our perfect cubes that you just need to kind of keep in mind and hopefully start to memorize. All right, so the cubed root of 512, we can go back up to that chart and we can see that the cubed root of 512 is 8. It is 8 because 8 cubed is equal to 512, or 8 times 8 times 8 is equal to 512. We have negative 5 to the thirds. So the negative is included in our parentheses. So each 5 is going to have that negative. If the negative was not in the parentheses, that negative would just be outside it, and we would solve the problem and then add the negative back in. So here we get negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5, which is going to be 25 times negative 5, which would equal us to negative 125. So that's how we could break it down if we needed to. If you have an odd number of negatives, your answer is going to be negative. If you have an even number of exponents here, your answer is going to be even. So we have 216, the cubed root of 216. If we go back up to that chart, we know that the cubed root of 16 is 6. And I'm going to let you leave that one. And then we have next here, we have 1/4 cubed. So if remember, we can rewrite this as 1 cubed and 4 cubed. And then we get, it is 1/64. And that's just looking up our chart and seeing that 4 cubed is 64. Our next step would be to do this in isolation. So we, instead of doing our square root here, we're going to do the cube root. So it'll be n is equal to the cubed root of 1,000. And how we could do this on our calculator, if you forget, is, let me pull up Desmos testing calculator here. I'm just going to. So instead of using this button, which is the square root with known, if we do 3, if we do the one next to that with the n and the little square root sign, we can do 3, and then we can type in our 1,000 here, and it gets us that our cubed root is 10. So n would be equal to 10. I want you to pause and try and do it for this one, and come up to me if you have any questions. Our next one is Trisha's Treats. A local bakery has a square menu on the wall that covers an area of 900 squared inches, or inches squared. write an equation that could be used to find the side length. So area of a square is S for the side length squared, and we are equals the A, and then we know that S squared is equal to 900 in this case. So then we could find the square root of 900. So S is equal to the square root of 900, and we can come over here. And in this case, we would use this first one here because we're just doing the square root of 900 is 30. So S would be equal to 30. The next is the volume of a cube. It's given below. Write an equation that could be used to find the side length. So the volume of a cube is the side length, or here they tell us to use x, so we're going to use x. It would be x cubed is equal to the volume. Here we know that the volume is 729, so it would be x cubed is equal to 729. So you need to know that x is the cubed root of 729, and go ahead and solve that in your calculator, the cube root of 729, and see what you get. You can go ahead and pause if you need to. All right, and that was the video for today. I hope everything goes well for you guys, and you guys have a great day.